Now I would like to invite Professor Kannabiran Ravishankar from University of Paris to address the event.
Welcome to the panel. Before starting, let me start with this question. What if Dr. Kalaignar Karunanidhi had been Winston Churchill? Just think over how the legacy of Winston Churchill has been carried across generations and how we are going to carry the legacy of Dr. Kalaignar across generations, across Tamil Nadu, across India, and across the world. I'm going to be a bit bilingual, so I do this mostly in English, not French and German or other languages, but I'll confine myself to English. And whenever I need to quote from literature, I will quote in Tamil and also offer a meaning to that. Let me start with a simple poem. Ulagam umayai ulla kalaye பலகலை பயன் பாங்குரத்தங்கியே இலகி இன்று நான் எனும் மொழிக்கலாம் தலைமையாம் தமிழ் தாயை வணங்குவார். So the meaning of this poem, it occurs in Ravana Kavyam by Palavar Kurandai. He says, when the world was sleeping, Tamil was growing. So that was the state. Similarly, when most of developing nations are sleeping, Tamil Nadu is growing, all because of the inputs and the impetus provided by the Dravidian movement, also provided by Dr. Kalaignar, and now the Honorable Chief Minister, M.K. Stalin. So, Vanakkam to Honorable Minister, PTR Palanivel Thiaga is from an illustrious family like M.T. Subramaniam, P.T. Rajan, PTR Palanivel Rajan, and then Thiaga Rajan. The legacy continues, the Dravidian legacy. Welcome and vanakkam to all the panelists, Panneerselvan Annan, Professor Arasu Chellaiah, Professor Dilip Mandal, Ugar Gandhi, and Karunanidhion. Vanakkam to all of you. What did Kalaignar do? We can rephrase the question, what not Kalaignar has done so far. So in Tirukural, we say like Ella Porulum idan par ula, idan par ilada ye porulum illai. So all subjects are covered in the Quran. So almost all subjects are covered by Dr. Kalaignar too. In English, we have this horizontal and vertical domains. You can take any vertical domain or any horizontal domain, science, technology, medicine, agriculture, Tamil, linguistics, social justice. Why not even religion? Kalaignar has done a lot of contribution to religion as well, even though he was from the Dravidian movement. People might deny this. That's what I started with Winston Churchill, because Kalaignar is one personality who has been denied his due place in history, either because of like kind of shyness or because of willful effort to suppress his contributions. And there is a big in Purananuru, one of the classics of Sangam Tamil. He says like Yamulum ulan oru porunan vaigal yen ter seyum tachan. So there is like a chariot maker who is able to do 8 chariots per day, right from scratch. So we have such Tachan, the chariot maker, is Kalaignar Karunanidhi, and we got to throw light and focus him more and more on his achievements, not because of like empty boasting or glory or something like that, but to take inputs from those kind of thinking, the process, and kind of benchmark against that so that we also continue to be in the path of progress. So while I start this, instead of, we all, I think like right from Tamil Nadu knows Dr. Kalaignar. Even if you wake up a person from sleep, even a small boy can tell about Kalaignar. Professor Dilip Mandal has contributed widely, and he has thrown so much light on the Dravidian movement. India has also knows about Dr. Kalaignar, the Dravidian movement. And slowly the world is also getting to know about Dravidian movement and the legacy of the Dravidian movement, the honor of the Dravidian movement, and above all, the achievements of the Dravidian movement so far on a capital model versus a social welfare model, which I'm going to touch soon, what Pugal Gandhi was highlighting. So instead of blowing our own trumpets, let me read from Royce Picard, who's the president of the American Humanist Association. So, மறைவாக நமக்குள்ளே பழங்கதைகள் சொல்வதில் ஒரு மகிமை இல்லை, திறமான புலமையெனில் வெளிநாட்டார் அதை வணக்கம் செய்தல் வேண்டும். So what is it? Even instead of empty boasting within a small neighborhood, if there's a true merit, even scholars of the foreign land will come and offer you adulations. That's what it says in the poem Mahakavi Subramanya Bharatiyar. So let me read from Royce Picard what he says. And he says, in South India, particularly Tamil Nadu, laying out a timeline that begins before the non-Brahmin manifesto of 1916. And he says, predating the first international humanist manifesto by nearly 2 decades. So 20 years ahead, Tamil Nadu was 20 years ahead of the humanist world. So that was his statement. And he says, one can see the robust humanistic culture of Tamil Nadu from those times through the present. The advances made by the Dravidian movement are impressive both in their depth and their forward-looking understanding. They address many areas of society, from secularizing government in language, in symbols, in actions, to raising the rights of all, including reserving seats in government for women and other underserved communities, securing voting rights and housing for transgender people, ensuring equality in education for all, and clearing a path for marriage based on love, just to name a few. These are the words from the president of the American Humanist Association, Royce Picard. And even when Kalaignar passed away, August 7, there was like a US House resolution passed in the honor of Dr. Muthuvel Karunanidhi. And probably you guys have read about that. It was brought in by Danny Davis, member of parliament from Illinois, and many other House representatives in the United States Congress. They joined hands with Danny Davis, and I'll just read one line there. Muthuvel Karunanidhi was a poet, writer, publisher, orator, novelist, literary critic in the Tamil language. His books sold millions of copies, and his movie scripts shattered old boundaries of political possibility, articulating a new vision of human relationship. He ran for political office 13 times and never lost over a 70-year period. He was the chief minister of the state of Tamil Nadu in southern India for 5 times. Mr. Karunanidhi led a successful effort for affirmative action program for their admittance to medical schools and subsequent admission to the practice of medicine. So we have this honorarium even from the United States Parliament, which we call the Congress. So such various achievements, but unfortunately what happens is like Kalaignar formed into a breed of both a politician as well as a social justice champion, as well as a literary person. So he fell into all these categories. He was a master of all, actually. He was a master of all. And people, for some reason, because of this, he was fitting into all these categories. He could not get all the credit from all these categories. Like earlier, it used to be in Sangam days, there used to be a king like Ariya Padai Kadanda Nedunchediyan, who used to write poems, at the same time used to administer and rule and provide a very good governance. So such was the man here again. Ariya Padai Kadanda Nedunchediyan, Andru Sangagalathil, Indru Ariviyal Kalathil, Ariya Padai Kadanda Dravida Kalaignar Karunanidhi. So both were, you can compare and contrast both personalities. So when I said about Paris conference, like there was like World Tamil Conference, Ulaga Tamil Manadu, which Kalaignar in person attended in Paris. So I'm trying to fit in what are all his global outlook towards Tamil and social justice together, taking from Tamil Nadu to the world stage. Dravidian model from Tamil Nadu to the world stage, to the global stage. Comtirendo Dilla Tramasvi Conference International was the 3rd international conference of Tamil studies, which was done in Paris at that time. So Kalaignar gave a very, very inspiring address on what people should do towards Tamil language in the next 50 years. He was such a visionary. He's talking about computerization of Tamil language, having a dictionary exclusive for technical words, having a dictionary exclusive for information technology words, and bringing out a dictionary in English and other languages for governance. Actually, Singapore government has released something called the Archit Tamil Agaradi. After 50 years of Kalaignar's vision, is now getting translated across the world. And now what we have a man like here, like such this caliber, like you can give on fish to people, which he did. It's not freebie. We have to immediately feed person who are really hungry. So that is one part of it. But he's also taught them how to fish. He gave them fish. He also taught them how to fish so that they can be on their own. I also come from a very simple, humble village, which you cannot even find on a map, called Varaipandal. You can only close to Thiruvannamalai, Arcad, or Arani. But even today, when I land, probably I will land in the next week again in Chennai airport. When I come out after immigration, there is a big portrait of Anna there. I always make it a point to stand there, offer my respects, take a selfie, and then step out into the world of Tamil Nadu, because we always remember and we are indebted for this movement, the Dravidian movement, especially Dr. Kalaignar. Anna's days were very less. So he opened the doors of education. The Dravidian movement opened the doors of education. Educational doors were open. We are all now of the next generation officiating in prestigious universities across the world. And this happened because of Dravidian movement in Kalaignar, and we can never forget, and we always owe our gratitude towards this movement. And we talked about science and technology, and like Dravidian movement has like a special feature which no other movements in the world had. Even the Russian Revolution, if you imagine, you can do a compare and contrast. Like some movements excelled in certain things, and some movements excelled in a different kind of thing. This was the only movement which is having 257 magazines and journals, taking education, political education, language education, and awareness to all over the people. There were 257 magazines which no other movement in the world can boast of. Right from Arinaranna, Kanchi, Dravidanadu, from Kalaignar, Murasoli, from Sangoli. There are so many magazines by all the leaders. Take any one leader of the Dravidian movement. Even though they may be slightly, I mean, like you have to reconcile them because some maybe have like difference in ideas and all this stuff, but still there were 257 magazines running parallelly with the Dravidian movement. Science and technology, the IT revolution, which you are talking about for so long, who ingrained the seed in that? Periyar, when Anna University got its mainframe computer for the first time, Periyar was alive and he was brought in, and the professors and the vice chancellor, Dr. VCK was there as professor at the time, and not a vice chancellor. So Dr. Kulandisamy was walking through Periyar on the mainframe computer, and Periyar, after they were explained to him what the computer can do and all this stuff, and Periyar asked him, what is the name for computer in Tamil? And then like everybody was turning around and said like, computer danga, yeah, it is only computer. Then Periyar was remarking, Seri, namma pasanga kandupudichirundha, namma pera ippom, avan vellakaran kandupudichina, adanal avan pera vechirukkom. He was jokingly remarking because like, had we invented the computer ourselves, probably we would have named it. But since others invented it, we are going by their names, but the things will change. That was Periyar said. And then, okay, we then had the translation called Kanini for computer. And Dr. Kalaignar introduced some like way back, even before Windows 95. Even before Windows 95 and Bill Gates were starting to rule the world, Kalaignar introduced like a course in the school curriculum for computers. We still have the book in the Tamil Nadu Textbook Society, the old book. So such was his vision. When Periyar and religious people sing about songs and like Oru Magal Thannai Udayen, Ulagam Niraindha Pugadal, Thirumagal Pol Valathen. So Periyar, if he had been alive, he used to tell, Oru Magan Thannai Udayen, Karunanidhi ennum Oru Magan Thannai Udayen, Ulagam Niraindha Pugadal, Thirumagan Pol Valathen. So that was this kind of cochlear revolution. Say, for example, Dr. Mohan Kameswaran used to talk about this. Students, I mean, like children who had hearing defects because of the cochlear thing, inside the year. And so Kalaignar was the person who immediately spotted and granted so much funds so that that could be taken. Even in the United States, healthcare is so difficult. And even in the United States, every president has to take an oath on God. So help me God. That's how even Barack Obama or Joe Biden or Donald Trump, whoever takes the oath, then they say like, so help me God. Here, the Dravidian movement achieved this with so much possibilities. That's a hope for humanists across the world. Agricultural revolution. People always used to talk about Peruntalaivar Kamarajar. Kamarajar may be a Thai, but Kalaignar is a Kuti for the Thai. Kamarajar would have built around like 11 dams. Kalaignar had 42 dams in Tamil Nadu. And nobody, I mean, like, just to, you can heap praises on Kamarajar. So we all owe our indebtedness to Kamarajar. That's okay. But you have to realize that instead of allocating all the glory to a single man and sidelining the other who really did and improved upon that, that's not in the good in terms of history. People have some vested interest because like they don't want the Dravidian movement to shine with such a glory. And people also, those who were opposing Kamaraj earlier, now they're singing his glory, I mean, like in a fake manner. So we should all come out of that and try to educate more about our people on the contributions of the Dravidian movement with data and facts, as well as the contributions of Dr. Kalaignar in special. One thing which I also wanted to mention is the Uravar Sandai, which Samathapuram, everybody talked about it because it was Periyar's vision and it took off. It took a backseat after other governments came in. But the thought which came out of Kalaignar's mind, same thing with Uravar Sandai. In the Netherlands, you cannot buy a basket of tomatoes and then say bye to the farmer. So when you buy it from the farmer and then push it to the wholesale and then to the retail chain, and it goes through the cycle, when it comes back, you have to share the profit with the farmer. That's the law. So the farmer gets his share of profit in the whole process. Do you think Kalaignar, as far as my knowledge is concerned, like he had traveled to Europe, but he's never traveled to Netherlands. How did he get his idea of Uravar Sandai? He always kept his ears, he always kept his eyes open. Selvathul Selvam, Sevichelvam, Achelvam, Selvathul Ellam, Thalai. So that was his. So he was a practitioner. He was not only a visionary, he was not only like a political commentator. So only we realize what he has done, Dr. Kalaignar has done only during the times of hardship that we face with oppressive governments. So far, we take him for granted. This is normal. This is normal. When things or times of abnormalcy comes, then we know, oh my God, or oh my science, if you don't want to know the government. So, oh my science. So that's how critical review. We as professors, we review Dr. Kalaignar Karunanidhi so much. Even I have written certain passages about Dr. Kalaignar's work, stating that this is not in true lines to Dr. Ilango Vadigal when you reconcile. So we all do that scientific reconciliation, academic reconciliation. That's okay. We professors, that's our job. We have to be impartial when it comes to that. But we professors cannot build a statue for Kannagi. We professors cannot build a city for Silapadigaram, like Kumbugar. We can't do anything. There seems to be a joke. It says like, Paat எழுதி பேர் வாங்கும் புலவர்களும் இருக்கிறார்கள், குற்றம் கண்டுபிடித்தே பேர் வாங்கும் புலவர்களும் இருக்கிறார்கள். So we are like the second category. We find faults in Dr. Kalaignar here and there. But when it comes to the wholesome picture, we cannot deliver what he delivered. We admit it openly. And Professor George Hart, who took the initiative for declaring status of Tamil as a classical language even much before Sanskrit, he was the one who threw the seed. And then Kalaignar picked upon it and bargained with the Indian government at that time. And Tamil was declared as a classical language. So even Professor Hart used to admire. I have a personal letter to the Honorable Chief Minister, M.K. Stalin. Professor Hart has written, we are going to institute shortly Arinar Anna Endowed Studies at UC Berkeley. So process is going. I cannot talk more about it, but we have a special letter praising Anna and Dr. Kalaignar, addressed to Honorable Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, signed by the world-renowned Professor Dr. George Hart. So I'll bring and hand it over to the Chief Minister. And so that, like, UC Berkeley has released a commemorative volume on Kalaignar called Kalaignar Kalanjiam, It's like a collective works of Dr. Karunanidhi. Not only his contribution to social justice and other improvements, industries and everything. In Tamils, especially because I'm from the field, I want to quote one single anecdote before I end this. Every commentator to Tamil literature has infused religion and mixed so much and tried to shade the work of the original work of Thiruvalluvar, the Tirukkural. And Kalaignar, you may have differing views on his style of commentary. When you write Shiva, then people will appreciate from Adinams and other madams and all this stuff. But when Kalaignar writes something, they might come out with like a silly complaint. But remember this, there's one kural which nobody in the world has written like this. There is like Nilavarai Nil Pugal Atrin Pulavarai Potradu Puttel Ulagu. This was the kural, and imagine how Kalaignar would have done that urai is everybody start, even Mu Varadarasanar, everybody says Puttel Ulagu is the heaven place where all the gods reside. That's what everybody wrote, right from 16th century until 21st century. Only Kalaignar, Mathiyosi, think differently. And he split the word Puttel into Putu, Yel. Putu means Pudumai, Yel means acceptance. Puttel Vulagu means the world which accepts modernity. Puttel Vulagu. So he has the guts, he had thinking, out of box thinking, to come out of all these things and portray and shine light on the Kural in the true spirit of how Thiruvalluvar envisioned it. So with that, we covered almost all branches, and more like right from literature to social justice to agriculture to medicine to computers. So to end this call, surely, there's one thing which is still in my mind when Kalaignar was like few more days that he's going to pass away, August 5, I guess, and like there's so many people on the streets chanting Varga, Varga, Varga Ve, Dr. Kalaignar Varga Ve. That is the actual mantra. Mantram is actually a Tamil word. Niraimori Mandar, Ana Yirkalaita, Maraimori Dane, Mantiram Enba. That means when so many people, not just a Brahmin priest chanting some useless mantra, but Mantiram. Mantiram is like when millions of people congregate together and kind of hail the leader or the honest, that is the real mantra. That's what Tolkappiyar says, and that was we witnessed when Kalaignar was passing away at the time, and still there in that mind, that mantra, Varga, Varga, Varga Ve, Dr. Kalaignar Varga Ve, long live, long live. That was the mantra. Even Sanskrit bows hands to Dravidam. Probably many people don't know that, even Brahmins don't know that. The Sanskrit, there is a sloka which says, I don't have the knowledge. What Tamil society, the Tamil corpus has this knowledge. I don't have it. So, hey Tamil, I bow to you. Can you imagine? Bhaktam Bridam Visvajana Anumodanam Sarvartatam Sri Chadago Bhavangmayam Sahasrasago Upanishad Samagamam. Upanishad, Tamil is equivalent to Upanishad, the Vedic Upanishad. Sarvartadam Sri Chadagopa Vangmayam Sahasra Sago Upanishad Samagamam Namam Yagam Dravidam. Hey Dravidam, I salute you. Namam Yagam Dravida Veda Sagaram. You are much more than the ocean of Vedas. That's what it says. So I end this Vaalvurai Vannagam, we call in Tamil, because it's not like obituary or anything like that. Tamil used to have this nice word called Vaalvurai. Instead of Maraivurai or Ninaivurai, it is Vaalvurai, means we are celebrating the life. So he has not passed away. So it's the speech of life and not speech of past. That's what we call Vaalvurai in Tamil instead of Ninaivurai. So Dr. Kalaignar is still alive with all of us in not only thoughts, deeds, in even our future actions. So on that Vaalvurai, I'll end up with this poem from Perum Kavinyan, Bharatiyar, Vaalgani Yemman, இந்த வையத்து நாட்டுள் எல்லாம் தாழ்வுற்று வறுமை மிஞ்சி விடுதலை தவறி கெட்டு பாழ்பெற்று நின்றதாமோர் மதராஸ் மாநிலத்தை தமிழ்நாடு என்று மாற்றி வாழ்விக்க வந்த திராவிடம், வாழ்விக்க வந்த அண்ணா, வாழ்விக்க வந்த பெரியார், வாழ்விக்க வந்த கலைஞர், வாழ்கனி எம்மான், வாழ்க வாழ்கவே. வாழ்க வாழ்க.
Thank you, Professor Kannabiran, for such a long and elaborate discussion on the life of Dr. Kalaignar. Of course, as far as Dravidian movement is concerned, it is quite unique. It cannot be compared even with the American Revolution or the Russian Revolution. Because many of the measures, the social welfare measures, which is undertaken by the Dravidian movement, particularly by the Justice Party in the year 1920s, particularly giving voting rights for women, which is one of the first in the world, actually. Yes. It is not only in Tamil Nadu or in India. It is one of the first in the world when the world was looking at thinking whether women should be allowed to vote or not. So we as a Tamil race is more advanced than many of the Western races, which is reinforced by the Justice Party. Likewise, when we talk about the known meal system, known meal schemes, which is now highly successful even in African countries, they are trying to copy what Tamil Nadu government is doing. The known meal is introduced by Justice Party again in 1920 in the corporation schools first, so 100 years before. Likewise, when you spoke about what Dravidian movement has done for the religion, how Kalaignar, though he's a Dravidian, how he supported religion. In fact, I would go slightly a different tangent in the sense, it is the Dravidian movement which has made more than any other movement for Hindu religion. It made an humble attempt to democratize the Hindu religion.
Yeah, democratize and reform. Actually,
yeah.
PTR used to say this every time. He says democratize Hindu religion. Who did that? Dravidian. PTR used to say this. He used to like it.
So the Hindu religion was democratized and made accessible to people from all communities by Dravidian movement, because of which maybe I would say that Hindu religion is strengthened, in fact, than otherwise it would have been, there would have been more conversions and other things. So as far as Dr. Karunanidhi is concerned, though he is an atheist, he strongly supported the believers also, which is not highlighted properly in the public fora, and the right-wing forces are taking to their advantage.